Dr. Hannah Kim stepped carefully along the rocky edge of the Crimson River. The red water below her bubbled and steamed as it flowed over the sharp stones. She had been collecting water samples on planet Kepler 442b for 3 months now, but the acidic rivers still made her nervous. One wrong step, and the burning liquid would eat through her protective suit in seconds. The morning sun cast long shadows across the alien landscape. Strange purple trees grew along the riverbank, their twisted branches reaching toward the orange sky. Hannah loved this quiet time before her research partner Wurgen woke up. She could work in peace and listen to the unusual sounds of this distant world. She knelt down and dipped her collection tube into the flowing water. The readings on her scanner showed the same high acid levels as always. Nothing new or exciting. Just another routine sample for the Earth Science Council. Hannah sighed and sealed the container. That's when she heard it. A weak whimpering sound coming from downstream. Hannah stood up and looked around. The sound came again, softer this time. It sounded like a small animal in pain. She followed the noise, walking carefully along the slippery rocks. Around a bend in the river, she found the source. A small creature was struggling in the water, near the far bank. It had thick gray fur and a long snout like a wolf, but it was much smaller than any earth wolf she had ever seen. The poor thing was barely keeping its head above the burning water. Hannah's heart raced. The creature was drowning in the acid river. She could see patches of its fur already dissolving where the water touched it. Without thinking, she dropped her sample kit and ran toward the water's edge, but then she stopped. The river was dangerous. Her suit would protect her for maybe 2 minutes before the acid ate through it. After that, she would die a horrible death. The smart thing to do was call for help and wait for Wujin to bring the emergency rescue gear. The creature whimpered again. Its movements were getting weaker. It wouldn't last long enough for rescue gear. Hannah looked at the dying animal and made her choice. She couldn't watch it suffer. She activated her suit's emergency mode and jumped into the river. The acid immediately began eating at her boots and gloves. Her suit's warning alarm screamed in her ears. She had less than 90 seconds before. The protection failed completely. The current was stronger than she expected. The burning water pushed her downstream as she fought to reach the struggling creature. Her suit's outer layer was already dissolving. She could feel the acid starting to warm the inner layer. Finally, she reached the small animal. Up close, she could see it was definitely not from Earth. Its eyes were larger than a wolf's and glowed with a soft blue light. Strange markings covered its face like natural tattoos. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The creature looked at her with those glowing eyes. For a moment, Hannah felt something impossible. The animal seemed to understand that she was trying to help. It stopped struggling and let her grab it. Hannah pulled the creature against her chest and began swimming back to shore. The acid was eating through her suit faster now. She could smell the plastic melting. Her arms and legs were starting to burn where the protection was thinnest. The riverbank seemed impossibly far away. Each stroke sent waves of acidic water over her dissolving helmet. She was going to die out here. Both of them were going to die. But Hannah kept swimming. She held the small creature tightly and kicked with all her strength. Her suit's alarms were screaming constantly now. The acid was almost through to her skin in several places. With her last bit of energy, Hannah reached the rocky shore. She pulled herself and the creature out of the deadly water just as her suit finally failed completely. The outer layer fell away in melted chunks. Hannah collapsed on the safe ground, gasping for air. Her skin burned where tiny drops of acid had gotten through, but she was alive. More importantly, the creature was alive too. She looked down at the small animal in her arms. It was unconscious but breathing. Most of its fur was gone, burned away by the acid. Its skin was red and raw in many places, but it was definitely alive. Hannah stood up on shaking legs and began the long walk back to the research station. She wrapped the injured creature in her emergency blanket and held it close to her chest. Every few minutes, she checked to make sure it was still breathing. The creature was so small and helpless. It couldn't weigh more than 10 pounds. What was it doing in the river? How had it gotten there? Were there others like it on this planet? By the time Hannah reached the research station, she had made up her mind. She was going to save this creature's life. She didn't care what the regulations said about contact with alien species. She couldn't let it die after everything they had both been through. Woojin was waiting for her at the station entrance. His face went pale when he saw her burned suit and the strange animal in her arms. Hannah, what happened? What is that thing? I found it drowning in the Crimson River, she said, walking past him toward the medical bay. Help me set up the emergency treatment table. Are you insane? You jumped into an acid river to save an unknown alien? It could be dangerous. It could carry diseases. Hannah placed the unconscious creature gently on the treatment table. In the bright lights of the medical bay, she could see just how badly it was injured, but she could also see something else. Under the burned fur and raw skin, the creature was healing itself. The wounds were already starting to close. Look at this, Woojin, she whispered. It's healing. This creature can repair its own injuries. Woojin moved closer to examine the animal. His scientific curiosity overcame his fear. Incredible. The cellular regeneration is happening at an impossible speed. What species is this? Hannah began cleaning the creature's wounds with gentle care. As she worked, its blue eyes opened and looked directly at her. Once again, she felt that strange connection. The animal seemed to recognize her as the one who had saved its life. I don't know what species it is, Hannah said softly. But I'm going to call him Bom. It means spring in Korean. A time for new beginnings. The creature Hannah now called Bom made a soft sound that almost seemed like agreement. Then it closed its eyes and went back to sleep, safe at last. 3 weeks had passed since Hannah saved Bom from the acid river. The small creature had grown stronger each day, and his healing abilities continued to amaze both scientists. What had started as severe burns and missing fur had completely healed within the first week. Now Bom looked healthy and strong. His gray fur thick and shiny, but something else was happening that Hannah had not expected. Bom was becoming attached to her in ways that went far beyond normal animal behavior. He followed her everywhere around the research station. When she worked at her computer, he lay quietly at her feet. When she went outside to collect samples, he watched from the window and waited until she returned. More strange was how Bom seemed to understand her emotions. When Hannah felt sad or tired, the small creature would come to her and rest his head on her lap. When she was excited about her research discoveries, Bom would wag his tail and make happy sounds. It was as if he could read her mind. This is not normal animal behavior, Woojin said one morning as he watched Bom bring Hannah her coffee mug. The creature had learned to carry small objects in his mouth without being taught. Look at him. He understands what you need before you ask for it. Hannah reached down to pet Bom's soft fur. The moment her hand touched him, she felt a warm sensation in her mind. It was like a gentle touch inside her thoughts, comforting and peaceful. She had felt this strange connection every time she touched Bom, but she had not told Woojin about it yet. Maybe his species is just very smart, Hannah said, though she knew it was more than that. That afternoon, while Hannah was running tests on water samples, Bom suddenly jumped up from his sleeping spot and ran to the station's front door. He began making urgent whining sounds and scratching at the metal. What's wrong with him? Woojin asked, looking up from his research notes. Hannah walked over to Bom, who was now pacing back and forth in front of the door. His blue eyes were glowing brighter than usual, and his ears were pointed toward the outside. I think he senses something. She opened the door and stepped outside with Bom. The creature immediately ran toward the eastern hills, then stopped and looked back at her. He wanted her to follow. Bom, what is it? Hannah asked. The small creature made a series of sounds that were unlike anything she had heard from him before. They were not barks or whines, but something more complex. Almost like he was trying to speak. Then Hannah heard it too. In the distance, the sound of vehicles approaching. Big vehicles moving fast across the rocky ground. Woojin, she called back to the station. We have company coming. Within minutes, 3 large military trucks appeared over the eastern hills. They moved in formation toward the research station, leaving clouds of dust behind them. Hannah felt her stomach drop. Military visits were never good news for scientists working on remote planets. "Get Bomb inside," Wujin said urgently as he joined her outside. "If those are corporate security forces, they cannot see him," but Bomb was already moving. Without any command from Hannah, the creature ran back into the station and disappeared into the storage room where they kept him hidden. It was as if he understood the danger. The truck stopped in front of the research station, and a dozen soldiers in dark uniforms got out. Their leader was a tall man with cold eyes and a stern face. His uniform showed the rank of commander. "Dr. Kim and Dr. Tae," the commander said as he approached. "I am Commander Ri Do-yun with Stellar Mining Corporate Security. We need to search your facility. On what authority?" Wujin stepped forward, trying to look confident. Commander Do-yun held up an official document. "We have reports of unauthorized biological specimens being kept at this station. All alien life forms found on corporate mining worlds must be reported immediately." Hannah's heart was beating fast, but she tried to keep her voice calm. "We are following all research protocols, Commander. Our reports are sent to Earth Science Council every week. Nevertheless, we will conduct a full search." The commander signaled to his soldiers. "Check every room, every storage area, every container." As the soldiers spread out through the station, Hannah worried about Bomb. The storage room was not a perfect hiding place. If they looked carefully, they would find him, but something amazing happened. As the soldiers searched the station, making lots of noise and moving equipment around, there was complete silence from the storage room. No sounds at all. It was as if Bomb knew he needed to stay perfectly quiet. The search took 2 hours. The soldiers looked through every corner of the station, scanning with detection equipment and checking all the storage areas. They even examined the room where Bomb was hiding, but somehow they did not find him. "Nothing here, Commander," one of the soldiers reported. "Just standard research equipment and samples." Commander Do-yun looked frustrated. "Are you certain?" "Our sensors detected unusual bio readings from this area 3 weeks ago." "That was probably from our routine biological surveys of the local ecosystem," Hannah said quickly. "We catalog all native species we encounter." The commander studied her face carefully. Hannah tried not to show any emotion, but she could feel sweat on her forehead. After a long moment, he nodded to his soldiers. "We will be monitoring this station closely," he told them. "Any biological discoveries must be reported immediately. Do you understand?" "Of course, Commander," Wujin replied after the soldiers left. Hannah and Wujin waited an hour before checking on Bomb. They found him in the storage room, lying perfectly still behind a stack of supply boxes. He had not moved or made a sound during the entire search. "How did you know to hide so well?" Hannah asked as she knelt down beside him. Bomb looked at her with those glowing blue eyes and made a soft sound. Then he did something he had never done before. He placed his small paw on her hand, and suddenly Hannah's mind was filled with images. She saw flashes of memory that were not her own. Large ships in space. Creatures that looked like Bomb, but bigger. Fire and destruction. Fear and sadness. The images came and went quickly, but the emotions were clear. These were Bomb's memories, somehow shared with her through touch. "Wujin," she whispered, "I think Bomb is trying to tell us something important." That night, as Hannah worked late in the laboratory, Bomb sat beside her and began making those complex sounds again. But this time, Hannah listened more carefully. The sounds had patterns, like language. Like words. She realized with growing excitement that Bomb was not just an intelligent animal. He was trying to communicate. He was trying to tell her something about his people, about where he came from, and about why soldiers were looking for him. But most importantly, Hannah understood that Bomb trusted her completely. He had shared his memories with her, something that felt sacred and special. Whatever species he belonged to, they formed bonds that went deeper than anything she had ever experienced. As she watched Bomb sleep peacefully beside her chair, Hannah made a silent promise. She would protect him, no matter what. And she would help him find his way back to his people, if any of them were still alive. 2 days after Commander Doyun's search, something strange began happening to Bomb. Every night when the larger moon rose in the sky, he would sit by the window and make those complex sounds toward the stars. The sounds were louder now, and they lasted for hours. "He's calling to someone," Hana told Woojin as they listened to Bomb's nighttime ritual. "I'm sure of it." "But who would he be calling to?" Woojin asked. "His species was supposed to be extinct. The Stellar Mining Corporation destroyed their home planet 3 years ago." Hana had been thinking about this for days. Through their telepathic connection, she had seen more of Bomb's memories. She had seen other creatures like him, living in great cities among tall trees. She had felt their fear when the mining ships came. She had experienced their desperate escape into space as their world burned behind them. "Maybe some of them survived," she said quietly. "Maybe they're still out there looking for survivors." That night, Hana stayed awake to listen to Bomb's calling. She sat beside him at the window and placed her hand on his soft fur. Immediately, her mind filled with his emotions. She felt his longing, his hope, and his deep sadness. But there was something else too, expectation, as if he knew something was about to happen. Around midnight, Hana's computer began beeping with urgent alerts. The long-range sensors were detecting something approaching the planet. Multiple objects, moving fast and using technology that her equipment could not identify. "Woojin, wake up," she called. "Something's coming." Woojin rushed to the computer and looked at the sensor readings. "Those energy signatures don't match any human ships." "What are they?" Bomb stopped his calling and looked directly at Hana. His blue eyes were glowing brighter than ever. Through their connection, she felt his excitement and joy. He knew what was coming. "They're Bomb's people," Hana whispered. They heard his calls. Over the next hour, 7 ships entered the planet's atmosphere. They were unlike any vessels Hana had ever seen. Instead of metal and straight lines, these ships looked organic, like they had been grown rather than built. Their hulls pulsed with soft light, and they moved through the sky like living creatures swimming through water. The largest ship landed in the valley, near the research station. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Smooth curves covered in patterns that looked like scales or bark. Strange plants seemed to grow from its surface, swaying in the alien breeze. "We need to contact Earth Command," Woojin said nervously. "This is first contact with an alien species. There are protocols." But Hana was watching Bomb. The small creature was standing at the window, his whole body trembling with excitement. He was making happy sounds she had never heard before. "Wait," she told Woojin. "Let's see what they want first." A door opened in the side of the large ship, and a figure emerged. Even from a distance, Hana could see it was much bigger than Bomb. It stood on 2 legs like a person, but had the same Volf-like features. Gray fur covered its body, and it wore simple clothing made from what looked like woven plants. The figure began walking toward their station, and Bomb started scratching at the window desperately. He wanted to go outside. "Should we let him go?" Woojin asked. Before Hana could answer, her computer chimed with an incoming communication signal. The transmission was in perfect human language, though the voice sounded strange, like words spoken by someone with a very different mouth. "Human friends in the metal shelter, we come in peace. We seek the young one called Bomb. Please do not be afraid." Hana's hands shook as she opened the communication channel. "This is Dr. Hana Kim. We have Bomb here. He's safe and healthy." There was a pause, then the voice continued. "I am Keth of the Moonwhisper clan. Bomb is precious to us. We have traveled far to find him. May we speak face to face?" Hana looked at Woojin, who nodded slowly. They opened the station door, and Bomb immediately ran outside toward the approaching figure. Hana and Woojin followed, both nervous but curious. Keth was enormous, nearly 8 feet tall with broad shoulders and powerful arms. Scars covered his face and hands, telling stories of many battles. But when he saw Bomb running toward him, his fierce expression changed completely. He knelt down and gathered the small creature in his arms, making gentle sounds that were clearly words of love and relief. Watching the reunion, Hana felt tears in her eyes. The bond between Keth and Bomb was obvious and deep. This was family. After a long moment, Keth stood and looked at Hana and Woojin. His eyes were the same glowing blue as Baum's, but larger and more intense. You are the ones who saved him. Keth sighed. It was not a question. We felt his fear through the pack bond when he was drowning. We felt his gratitude when someone helped him. You risked your life for a creature you did not know? Anyone would have done the same thing, Hannah said, though she knew it was not true. Keth studied her carefully. No, not anyone. We have encountered your species before. Most humans care only for profit and power. They destroyed our world for the metals in its core. They killed most of our people. The pain in his voice was clear. Hannah felt ashamed of what her species had done. But you, Keth continued, you are different. You saved our prince at great danger to yourself. You cared for him when you could. Have turned him over to your authorities for reward. Prince? Wujin said in surprise. Keth placed his hand on Baum's head with great tenderness. Baum is the last heir of the royal bloodline. When our world died, we thought all hope was lost. But you kept hope alive. Suddenly, alarms began blaring from the research station. Hannah ran inside to check her sensors and felt her blood turn cold. More ships were approaching the planet, human ships. Military vessels moving in attack formation. Commander Do-Yun, she said grimly. He's coming back with reinforcements. Keth's expression hardened. How many? 20 ships. Maybe more. The alien leader was quiet for a moment, then spoke into a device on his wrist. Immediately, the other Valkyrie ships began moving into defensive positions around the valley. We did not come here to fight, Keth told Hannah. But we will not let humans capture our prince again. Again? Hannah asked. Keth's eyes filled with anger. Baum was not lost by accident. He was taken from us by human raiders who wanted to study our royal bloodline. He escaped during transport and crashed in your river. The realization hit Hannah like a physical blow. Baum had not just been drowning. He had been running for his life. Now, the corporate forces were returning to finish what they had started. They wanted to capture Baum and use him for their own purposes. But they would have to go through his pack first, and somehow Hannah realized they would have to go through her, too, because in saving Baum's life, she had become part of something much bigger than she had ever imagined. The human military fleet arrived within hours, filling the sky with dark metal ships. Admiral Park Min-ho's flagship was twice the size of any vessel Hannah had ever seen. Its weapon systems glowed with threatening energy as it took position directly. Above the valley, Admiral Min-ho's voice boomed from the communication speakers. Alien vessels, you are in violation of human territory. Surrender immediately or face destruction. Keth stood outside the research station with his pack members who had come down from their ships. Hannah counted 6 other Valkyrie, each one tall and powerful looking. But they seemed calm despite being outnumbered by the human fleet above them. They do not understand, said Nari, a female Valkyrie with silver fur and fierce yellow eyes. Humans think strength comes only from big weapons and loud voices. Yuki, the oldest member of the pack, nodded slowly. Her fur was white with age and strange markings covered her arms. The young human female interests me more, she said, looking at Hannah. She carries the scent of one who has bonded with our prince. What does that mean? Hannah asked. Keth answered, his deep voice serious. It means you have been changed by your connection with Baum. Your species is not capable of true pack bonds, yet somehow you have formed one with him. This should not be possible. Before Hannah could respond, Admiral Min-ho contacted them again. Dr. Kim, this is Admiral Min-ho. You are ordered to turn over the alien specimens immediately. Failure to comply will result in your arrest for treason. Hannah looked at Baum, who was staying close to her side. Through their bond, she felt his fear. Not fear of death, but fear of being separated from her again. What if I refuse? She asked. Keth, the big alien, studied her face carefully. Then you would be choosing our pack over your own species. Such a choice cannot be made lightly. There would be no going back. My pack? Hannah felt confused. Yuki stepped forward. Child, you do not understand what has happened to you. When you saved our prince, when you bonded with him, you became pack. But we must know if this bond is real or just the result of Bomb's young emotions. The trials, Nari said, her voice hard. She must face the trials, Keth nodded. If you truly wish to stand with us against your own people, you must prove you are worthy of pack bond. 3 trials, as our ancestors required. Above them, the human ships were moving into attack positions. Time was running short. What kind of trials? Hannah asked. First, the trial of courage, Keth explained. You must show you will fight to protect the innocent, even when afraid. Second, the trial of sacrifice, Yuki added. You must choose between personal gain and the good of the pack. Third, the trial of heart, Nari finished. You must prove your loyalty goes deeper than words. Wujin grabbed Hannah's arm. This is insane. You can't fight the entire human military for some aliens you just met. But as Hannah looked at Bomb, she realized something important. These weren't just aliens she had met. Through her bond with Bomb, she felt connected to all of them. Their pain was her pain. Their love for each other was something she had never experienced with her own species. I'll do it, she said. The first trial began. Immediately, Admiral Minho sent down ground troops to surround the research station. 50 soldiers with heavy weapons formed a circle around the small group. Dr. Kim, the Admiral's voice called from above. Step away from the aliens. This is your last chance. Instead of stepping away, Hannah moved closer to Bomb and placed her hand on his head. No, I won't let you take him. The soldiers raised their weapons. Hannah's heart pounded with terror, but she didn't move. She was more afraid of losing Bomb than of dying. Keth made a sound of approval. The first trial is passed. She shows courage in the face of death. The second trial came when Admiral Minho made her an offer through the communication system. Dr. Kim, the Stellar Mining Corporation is prepared to offer you 50 million credits and a position as head of alien research if you cooperate. You could be the most famous scientist in human space. Hannah had dreamed of such recognition her whole life, fame, wealth, and the chance to make history. All she had to do was step away from the aliens. Think about it, Hannah, Wujin whispered. 50 million credits. You'd never have to worry about money again. But Hannah looked at Bomb's trusting eyes and felt the fear of all the Valkyrie around her. They had lost everything to human greed already. She would not be part of taking more from them. Keep your money, she told the Admiral. Some things can't be bought. The second trial is passed, Yuki said with surprise in her voice. She chooses pack over profit. The third trial was the hardest. Admiral Minho gave his final ultimatum. You have 30 seconds to surrender the aliens or we will destroy them all, including you. The weapons on the human ships began charging with deadly energy. The Valkyrie ships moved to protect the station, but they were badly outnumbered. Hannah felt the pack's resignation. They had accepted that they would die here rather than surrender their prince, but she was not ready to accept that. Wait, she called up to the Admiral. I have something to trade. What could you possibly have that we want more than the aliens? Information about their technology, their healing abilities, their telepathic powers. Everything you want to know. Keth looked at her with shock. You would betray us? But Hannah wasn't finished. In exchange, you let them go safely, all of them. And you leave this planet forever, Admiral Minho laughed. Why would we agree to that? We can just take the information after we capture them. Because, Hannah said, I'm the only human who has bonded with them. I'm the only one who understands how their abilities work. Kill them, and you'll never learn their secrets. It was a bluff, but a good one. The Admiral was quiet for a long time, considering. You would sacrifice yourself for them? Nari asked quietly. Yes, Hannah said simply, but Bomb had other ideas. The young prince began making those complex sounds again, and suddenly all the Valkyrie were listening intently. What is he saying? Hannah asked. Kat's expression was amazed. He says you are not sacrificing yourself. You are choosing family, and family protects each other. The big alien turned to face the human ships above. Admiral Minho, you have heard our human pack sisters offer, but we counter with our own. We're listening, came the suspicious reply. Leave now, and we will not show you why the Stellar Mining Corporation truly fears us. Stay, and learn why it took them 3 years and 100 ships to destroy our world. The threat was delivered calmly, but something in Keth's voice made Hana shiver. She realized that the Valkyrie had been holding back, trying to avoid violence. But they were far more dangerous than they appeared. Admiral Minho must have realized it too. After a long pause, his voice came back, filled with anger but also caution. This isn't over, Dr. Kim. The Stellar Mining Corporation has a long memory. The human ships began moving away from the planet. Within an hour, they were gone. Hana collapsed to her knees, exhaustion and relief overwhelming her. She had passed the trials, but more than that, she had found something she had been searching for her whole life without knowing it. Welcome to the pack, sister, Keth said, placing his large hand on her shoulder. You have earned your place among us. But the real confirmation came from Baum, who pressed his small body against her and filled her mind with feelings of love, acceptance, and belonging. For the first time in her life, Hana felt truly at home. A standoff in space lasted 3 days. Admiral Minho's fleet hung motionless above the planet while his crews argued among themselves. Some demanded they complete their mission and capture the aliens. Others refused to fire on beings they now understood as fellow intelligent creatures seeking only to survive. On the 4th day, something unprecedented happened. Baum, who had grown into a magnificent young adult during the months with his pack, made a decision that surprised everyone, including his own people. I want to go aboard their biggest ship, he told Hana through their mental link. Alone? Absolutely not, Keth growled. It's too dangerous. But Yuki placed her hand on the pack leader's arm. The prince has wisdom beyond his years. What do you sense, young one? Baum's glowing eyes looked up at the human ships. Fear. They are afraid of us, just as we were afraid of them. Fear makes people do terrible things. But one person showing trust can change everything. Hana felt her heart racing. Baum, they could capture you. They could hurt you. The young Valkyrie prince nuzzled her hand gently. You trusted me when you saved me from the river. You didn't know if I was dangerous, but you chose to help. Now I choose to trust them. Before anyone could stop him, Baum activated abilities that even his pack didn't know he possessed. His body began glowing with soft light, and suddenly he was floating upward, moving through space without a ship, protected by some kind of energy field. By the ancient spirits, whispered Yuki. He carries the true royal power, just like the legends. Aboard Admiral Minho's flagship, chaos erupted as sensors detected Baum approaching. The young Valkyrie prince passed through the ship's hull as if it were made of light, appearing on the bridge in a shimmer of blue energy. I am Baum of the Moonwhisper clan, he said, speaking perfect human language for the first time. I come in peace to speak with your leader. Admiral Minho stared at the magnificent creature before him. Gone was the small, helpless pup Hana had rescued. In his place stood a being of obvious nobility and power, radiating calm wisdom despite his youth. You're the alien they were looking for, the admiral said. I am the last prince of a people your corporations tried to destroy, Baum replied. But I did not come here to speak of the past. I came to offer you a future. Through his royal abilities, Baum projected visions directly into the minds of everyone on the bridge. They saw planets where humans and Valkyrie worked together, healing worlds damaged by mining and war. They saw cities that grew like forests, technology that worked in harmony with nature, and children of both species playing together under alien suns. This is what we offer, Baum said. Not surrender, not conquest, but partnership. Your people have strength and determination. Mine have wisdom and connection to the natural world. Together we could heal the damage done by fear and greed. Admiral. Minho's face showed the struggle happening in his mind. The corporations will never accept this. They want to study you, to take your abilities for themselves. Then we will work with those humans who choose differently, Baum replied. Like Dr. Hana Kim, who saved my life expecting nothing in return, like Dr. Woojin, who chose friendship over fear. like the crews of your own ships who have seen the truth and reject the old ways of thinking. As if summoned by his words, reports began coming in from throughout the fleet. Ship after ship was declaring neutrality, refusing to participate in any attack on the Valkyrie. Scientists, engineers, and even military officers were formally requesting to join the cooperative mission, rather than the conquest mission. "You're tearing my fleet apart," Admiral Minho said, but there was no anger in his voice anymore, only sadness and confusion. "I'm giving your people a choice," Baum corrected. "The same choice Dr. Kim made when she saw me drowning. Help or hurt. Build or destroy. Choose fear or choose love." On the planet below, Hana felt every moment of Baum's interaction with the Admiral through their bond. She was terrified for him, but also proud. A small creature she had saved was now saving others in return, not with violence or threats, but with compassion and hope. The moment of decision came when Admiral Minho asked the question that would determine everything. "What happens to those who choose to stay with the corporations?" "They return to Earth with their reports," Baum answered. "But they return changed? They have seen what's possible. Some will remember, some will share what they learned. And slowly your people will realize that the old ways lead only to emptiness and conflict." "And what happens to those who choose to stay?" "They become the first members of something new. Not human, not Valkyrie, but something greater than either species alone." Admiral Minho was quiet for a long time. Then, to everyone's shock, he began removing his military insignia. "I've spent 40 years following orders without question," he said. "Maybe it's time I started thinking for myself." The transformation that followed was like nothing anyone had expected. Instead of violence or conquest, the human fleet became the foundation of the first interspecies cooperative colony. Ships that had come to destroy began working alongside Valkyrie vessels to build something unprecedented. Hannah found herself at the center of it all, serving as the primary translator and cultural bridge between the two species. But she was no longer alone in her role. Wujin had proven himself as a valuable ally, and dozens of humans from the fleet had chosen to stay and learn. The real miracle, though, was what happened to Baum. The young prince's act of courage and trust had awakened something in both species. Humans began developing their own empathic abilities, weak at first but growing stronger through contact with the Valkyrie. And the Valkyrie, isolated for so long, began to heal from the trauma of losing their world. 6 months after the confrontation, Hana stood on a hill overlooking the new settlement. Humans and Valkyrie worked together in the fields below, using combined technologies to grow crops that could feed both species. Children from both races played together, learning each other's languages and customs. Baum, now fully grown and magnificent, in his royal bearing, approached and settled beside her. Through their bond, he shared his contentment and gratitude. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked through their mental connection. "Giving up your old life for this uncertainty?" Hannah smiled and scratched behind his ears, a gesture that still comforted him despite his size and dignity. "I didn't give up my old life. I finally found my real one. The pack bond," Baum observed. "You understand it now?" "I understand that family isn't about blood or species," Hannah replied. "It's about choosing to care for each other, no matter what." From the settlement below, the sounds of two species learning to live as one drifted up to them. Laughter, music, and the voices of beings working together toward a common goal. "What happens now?" Hannah asked. Baum's response filled her with excitement and hope. "Now we find the other survivors scattered across the galaxy. We build more settlements like this one. We prove that cooperation is stronger than conquest. And someday, when both our peoples are ready, we reach for the stars together." "The pack grows," Hannah said, understanding at last what that truly meant. "The pack grows," Baum agreed. "And you, Hana Kim, will always be remembered as the human who chose love over fear, and in doing so, changed the destiny of two species." As the sun set over their impossible but wonderful new world, Hana reflected on the simple act that had started everything. She had seen a small creature drowning and chose to help. That choice had led to friendship, family, and a future brighter than anything she had ever imagined. Sometimes, she thought, the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest changes in the universe. And sometimes, saving a single life means saving everything that matters. The pack had grown indeed. And it would continue growing, one choice at a time, one friendship at a time, until the galaxy itself became home to all who chose love over fear. 3 months passed peacefully after Admiral Minho's retreat. Hannah learned to live among the Valkyrie, studying their culture and technology while they established a temporary settlement in the valley. She discovered that their ships were not just machines, but living beings that had formed symbiotic relationships with their pilots. Your people build tools to serve them, Yuki explained one evening as they watched the bio-ships pulse with gentle light. We grow partners to work with us. The difference in thinking explains much about why our species have such different values. Hannah had grown close to all the pack members, but her bond with Bomb remained special. The young prince was growing rapidly, already twice the size he had been when she rescued him. But more importantly, he was learning to use his royal abilities. "Show me again," Hannah said as they sat together outside her quarters in the Valkyrie settlement. Bomb placed his paw on her hand, and suddenly Hannah's mind filled with images from across the galaxy. She saw other Valkyrie survivors scattered on distant worlds, hiding from human corporations. She saw beautiful planets where nature and technology lived in harmony. She saw the ancient Valkyrie homeworld as it had been before the mining ships came. "It's incredible," she whispered. "You can connect with Valkyrie anywhere in space." Through their bond, Bomb shared his sadness. There were so few of his people left. Maybe a few thousand scattered across hundreds of planets. The great civilization that had once spanned star systems was reduced to small groups of refugees, but there was hope too. Bomb showed her visions of the future. Valkyrie settlements growing again. New worlds where they could rebuild their society. And always in these visions there were humans working alongside them. Humans like Hannah who had chosen cooperation over conquest. "Is this really possible?" Hannah asked. "Can our species learn to work together?" Keth, who had been listening nearby, shook his great head. "Not while the corporations control human expansion. They see only resources to exploit, not beings to befriend." That same night, Wujin came to find Hannah with disturbing news. "I've been monitoring long-range communications," he said urgently. "Admiral Minho didn't give up. He's been building a new fleet. Bigger than before." "How big?" Keth asked, joining their conversation. 50 ships, maybe more. And they're not just military vessels. I detected mining equipment, research labs, and capture facilities. Hannah felt sick. They're planning to turn this whole system into a laboratory. They want to study the Valkyrie like specimens. When will they arrive? Nari asked. She had been teaching Hannah combat techniques, though Hannah hoped never to use them. 2 weeks at most, Wujin replied. The pack held an emergency council that night. Hannah was invited to participate, an honor that still amazed her. To be accepted as an equal by being so much older and wiser than herself felt like a dream. "We could run again," suggested one of the younger warriors. "Find another hiding place." "No," Keth said firmly. "We have run long enough. Every time we flee, we lose more of ourselves." "But we cannot fight 50 ships with 7, Nari pointed out. "We do not need to fight them," Yuki said quietly. "We need to change them." All eyes turned to the old shaman. "What do you mean, grandmother?" Baum asked. "Why, Yuki?" I looked at Hannah with those ancient wise eyes. "Our human sister has given us something we had lost. Hope. She proves that not all humans are destroyers. If one can change, perhaps others can too." "You want to try to convert Admiral Minho?" Hannah asked in disbelief. "Not convert," Yuki corrected. "Educate. Show him what he would destroy. Make him understand the choice he faces." Keth growled low. In his throat, "The Admiral has already made his choice. He serves greed and power." "Then we offer him a better choice," Hannah said suddenly. An idea was forming in her mind. What if we could show him that cooperation is more profitable than conquest? Over the next week, Hannah worked with the Valkyrie to develop a plan. It was Risky and required perfect timing, but it might be their only chance to avoid a war that would destroy both species. The Valkyrie had technologies that human corporations desperately wanted, medical treatments that could extend human life by centuries, energy sources that were clean and renewable, agricultural methods that could feed entire planets without harming the environment. We offer to share these technologies, Hannah explained, to the pack. But only through peaceful partnership, not theft or conquest. And if they refuse? Nari asked. Then we show them the alternative. Keth said grimly. When Admiral Minho's fleet arrived, they found something unexpected. Instead of hiding or preparing for battle, the Valkyrie ships were arranged in a perfect circle around the planet. They pulsed with harmonious light, creating a barrier that the human ships could not penetrate. What are they doing? Came Admiral Minho's angry voice over the communication channel. Creating a choice? Hannah replied. She was aboard Keth's ship, broadcasting from the center of the Valkyrie formation. Admiral, you can destroy us, but first you need to see what you would be destroying. Before he could respond, Bomb activated. His royal abilities? Every human in the fleet suddenly found their minds connected to the collective memory of the Valkyrie people. They experienced the beauty of the lost homeworld. They felt the terror of the mining ship attack. They witnessed the desperate evacuation and the long years of exile. But more than that, they saw what the Valkyrie offered. Technologies that could heal the damage humans had done to their own worlds. Wisdom that could prevent future wars. Partnership that could benefit both species for thousands of years. You can take these things by force, Hannah continued, and gain nothing but corpses and broken machines. Or you can earn them through friendship and build something greater than either of our species could achieve alone. The connection lasted only minutes, but Hannah could feel its impact. Throughout the human fleet, minds were changing. Soldiers were questioning their orders. Scientists were amazed by what they had seen. Even some officers were beginning to doubt. Their mission. Admiral Minho's voice, when it came, was shaken. Dr. Kim, what have you done to my crews? I've shown them the truth, Hannah replied. Now they have the same choice I had. Choose greed or choose growth. Choose conquest or choose cooperation. Choose to remain what we have always been or choose to become something better. On the Admiral's flagship, confusion reigned. Half his officers wanted to continue the attack, while the other half argued for negotiation. The crews were beginning to refuse orders to charge weapons. In that moment of chaos, Wujin made his own choice. He activated the communication system and broadcast to both fleets. Admiral Minho, this is Dr. Tae Wujin. I formally resign from the Stellar Mining Corporation and request asylum with the Valkyrie. I choose to stand with my friend and the future she represents. His words broke the stalemate. Across the human fleet, more voices joined his. Scientists, engineers, even some military personnel declared their intention to defect. They had seen what the partnership could achieve, and they wanted to be part of it. Admiral Minho found himself commanding a fleet in mutiny. And at the center of it all was Hannah, the quiet scientist who had saved a drowning alien pup and accidentally started a revolution. The choice was no longer just between war and peace. It was between the old way of thinking and a new way of being. Between a future of endless conflict and a future of infinite possibility, the question was, which future would humanity choose?